I'm about to take a flight on that chopper to give you an idea of how the German Army and NATO can use specialized light infantry and tactical transport helicopters to rapidly deploy forces where they're needed most. For this, we are joining Transporthubschrauberregiment 30 in a joint exercise. It's all about getting airborne troops or cargo from A to B. The motto is operational, anytime, anywhere. Let's find out how it works. Big picture first. What is all this about? The regiment is part of the binational Division Schnelle Kräfte, the Rapid Forces Division. It includes a German and Dutch airborne and air mobile brigade, so Fallschirmjäger, as well as a German mountain brigade. Then there are special forces and a helicopter command. Question is, why does all this exist?
Turns out I found just the person to answer all of this. Was that a shot?
The Division Rapid Forces has two main missions. On the one hand, national and collective defense. On the other hand, international crisis management. The role of Transport Helicopter Regiment 30 is to provide air mobile transport for troops, equipment and material in the scope of those two missions. We are the carrier of the capability of mountain flying in the German Army Aviation Corps. With this capability, we support our sister regiment and other aviation units in the German military. We first deployed to Kosovo, and our last mission abroad was Mali, and we are currently in the role of going over to the new NATO forces model, where we will support our alliance and the German armed forces in the collective defense of the NATO territory.
Okay, that's the basics covered. But how does this translate into practice? We're talking about a complex machinery here. 18,000 soldiers, specialist equipment, lots of vehicles, helicopters with tight response times and a lot of different cogs turning.
The Transport Helicopter Regiment 30 gets tasked via the command line, which goes to our brigade level, which is Helicopter Command, based in Bückeburg, which is subordinated to the Division Rapid Forces headquarters in Stadt Allendorf, which is subordinated to the Army Command in Strausberg. Mission tasks are given through the main command channels and tasked towards our regiment or one of our sister regiments. Our operational readiness is maintained by training and exercises. We partake in a series of exercises within a national framework and within an international framework. For example, this year we partook in the exercise Grand South or Swift Response as the main exercise of Germany and NATO in the southern Balkans. It was part of Quadrica, which was the exercise series the German armed forces undertook this year. Depending on our missions and goals and tasks, as well as the missions that we participate in, we have different readiness times. For example, until this year, we were part of the NATO response force. We had a readiness time of 5 days until we needed to deploy. This is flexible depending on the situation we're in. Our regiment can operate from a fixed operation base like our airfield here in Niederstetten or from a dispersed airfield. We practiced this last year in 2023 with our main exercise last year, Minisonic, where we left our airfield here, moved to a forward operation base and operated an airfield out in the open.
For all this, you need a helicopter. And look, I found one right there. This is the NH90. It's a taktischer Transporthubschrauber, and I challenge you to say that fast 3 times in a row. Now, I could tell you all about the performance data, but you can find that online, so you don't really need it, do you? Except that perhaps you'd want that. I've got you covered. enough, it may not look as flashy as a Tiger or an Apache. However, you cannot take ground with those helicopters. You can blast the ground, absolutely, but you cannot take it. For that, you need a helicopter just as this one. Something that can transport soldiers or cargo from Alpha to Bravo, perhaps via Charlie. But next to the machine itself, you also need a crew. And that's where the pilot and the flight engineer comes in. And I think I saw some of those earlier. So let me see if I can find them. And there they are. Let me grab them for you. Hello, my friends. Would anybody like to talk to a camera? No? Oh, well, that's a problem.
This is Dennis and he...
I'm a pilot.
So I found a pilot. This is him. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Dennis. I'm one of the NH90 pilots here in Niederstetten, the Transport Helicopter Regiment. That's our beautiful helicopter, the NH90.
So since this is a transport helicopter, there's always this sort of reputation these are going to be more slow, more sluggish, not as maneuverable as sort of, you know, the Apache or the Tiger. What would you as a pilot say? Like, what can you do with this machine?
Honestly, I would say this is a helicopter which is like a sports car. So if we have troops with us, or if I have a cargo load inside the helicopter, I can do everything I want. The only limit, I would say, is the packs I'm flying with. At one point, they don't want to fly with me anymore. But if we're talking about sling load operations, of course, then I have a lot more limits.
Can we jump inside?
Yes, of course.
Absolutely. Let's do that. So talk us through like sort of a tactical flight and offload then, with you going somewhere, picking up paratroopers and dropping them off somewhere. How does that look in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, it's like we are like 2 or 4 aircraft, NH90, flying in formation and going into the landing zone for the pickup. There in the staging, each paratrooper knows his aircraft he needs to get in. After we have all the personnel with us, then again, depending on scenario, we're doing some low-level flying. So if I'm talking about low-level, it's under 100 feet, so 30 meter in the metric system. We can go down like 10 feet, which is our limit, so 3 meter, and then fly with them to the designated landing area. Going in there, it's always, like I said, it's a tactical transport helicopter, so our landings are really quick, fast landing. Getting into the landing zone, getting our paratroopers out of the aircraft and then leaving the area again.
So you don't even shut off the engine, you just land, they
drop, and then we leave again.
And how long is that?
Everything depends on the troops we have with us and of course on the pilots and the flight engineer we have with us, and if we're talking about special forces or not. So still it's something we do really, really quick.
Okay, so now today we have a beautiful day. There would obviously not be flight restrictions, but what about bad weather or nighttime? Are you cleared for those?
So bad weather operations are possible for us. We have an anti-icing system in our helicopter, so bad weather is not a problem, and we are capable of flying nighttime operations.
Are there any quirks you have to keep in mind with the NH90 as you're flying it?
So the NH90 is a really modern helicopter with a lot of electrical systems inside. All those systems might have one or another bug, which might or might not show up while flying. So I would say those are the quirks. You need to think about, there might happen something, one system is not working that perfectly right now, but still it's feasible for the mission.
So the NH90, I mean, it does have a mixed reputation sometimes with what you read. What would you say to those things as a pilot?
I'm absolutely in love with this aircraft. Like I said, it's a sports car. It's a lot of fun to fly with it. Yes, it's a modern helicopter with a lot of systems inside, so you need to do a lot of maintenance service with the helicopter, which is one part of the bad reputation the aircraft has. But if we're just talking about flying this aircraft, it's a beauty.
Any sort of malfunction, do you have a mechanic on board?
We have a flight engineer with us. He can assist us in basic stuff, but a lot of things in the helicopter you can do by your own. So it's a redundant system. So if there's one malfunction, most of the time it's still possible to at least land at the next suitable airfield, or maybe even continue the mission.
Obviously there's no HUD in front of us, so do you have a helmet mounted display?
We have a helmet mounted display, which is one of the really, really good things of the NH90. So most of the information I need while flying. I get a kind of heads-up display. So if I'm going into a confined area operation, I need to look outside the aircraft. If I look on the right side, I get all the information like the airspeed, like the heading, like the altitude on my head-up display. So I don't need to look inside the helicopter anymore.
What about night times? Do you have NVGs?
Yes, we have NVG.
Now that covers the flying aspect, but what's it like inside a helicopter? For this, I turn to Sebastian, who is the...
I'm a flight engineer. I'm Sebastian, I'm flight engineer at the NH90.
Talk us through in the front. We see already quite a few of the equipment there. What do we have here?
We have an obstacle warning system here, which detects obstacles and direction of flight in a specific angle. So then we have the forward-looking infrared. It can interfere with the helmet-mounted side display, so the pilot can move the camera with his head.
Okay.
And this is our weather radar warner and missile launch warner, and also laser warner here at the helicopter. And yeah, it's for countermeasures.
And those give you all aspects of protection around the aircraft?
All aspects that we need for the countermeasures.
And that's tied automatically then to the countermeasure system?
Yeah.
And then as we move closer to the cockpit, we have this cutout here with a see-through panel. Is that for the pilot or is that for you as a mechanic to look inside?
It's for both. So it's for the pilot to get reference at the bottom, and for our technical inspection, or before first flight and after last flight inspection, to see if some cables are worn or something else. So it's for us to have a short look into one of the hearts of the helicopter.
You have two engines, correct?
We have two engines, the Rolls-Royce Turbo Mecha engines 322.
And what's the fuel system here in the NH90?
We have two fuel systems, one in the front and one in the back. Each engine gets its fuel from one system, and we have a balancing system in the middle of the helicopter which balances the fuel between system 1 and system 2. The external fuel tank is the possibility to install here. So we get a heavy store carrier on this side, and then we can put our external fuel tanks here.
You have, of course, your hatch here that you will be operating. And does that then allow you to, in flight, open up, close up, communicate with the pilot so what you're seeing on the ground? Okay.
If we have a ground operation into a confined area, so I must open the door to show him the distance from the main rotor and the tail rotor to obstacles. So it's the only way to look outside of the door to see the tail rotor and get clear of obstacles.
And then the intercom ground crew, if you want to communicate with...
Talk with people on the ground, they can connect, and so they have a connection, and it can speak with the whole crew in the intercommunication system.
Now the hatch in the back, how would you load cargo into the helicopter? Does that come on pallets?
This is a possibility. We have cargo rolling devices for the helicopter and a floor winch. You can, when you have hydraulic power of the helicopter, you can pull it in with the floor winch.
For you as a flight engineer, what do you spend most of your time on, sort of to support the aircraft, to fix certain issues?
About 1 hour for our daily inspection, but it's only for checking cleanliness and condition of main rotor, tail rotor hub, and mechanical systems. But it's a mechanical inspection of the helicopter before flying, and also in electrical. We power the helicopter, and then we check all electric systems, do the before first flight check of our full fly-by-wire system, and this takes the most time.
This long handlebar, which I guess some people would like to do pull-ups or put their towels there. Well, what's that for?
It's our HF antenna. It's so long because it needs a lot of power.
The engines probably provide that power. Is there like 1 or 2 electric generators?
We have at the helicopter 3 electrical generators, but only 1 generator is only for the de-icing.
Do you have any redundancy in place that if you, let's say, lose one, you can use the other one still to have nominal performance?
So we have the redundancy in flight controls. We have redundancy in electrical power, hydraulic power.
Let's have a look inside then, as well as we move towards the entry hatch here. I assume if you have any paratroopers and so on, they would step inside just like this?
Yeah, they go in there, have this handle, and then they can go inside the helicopter. So this is our cabin, which can locate 12 to 14 people with places in maximum. It's realistic to transport 10 people with his full equipment.
Where do you usually sit?
I'm usually sitting here. It's also possible to sit there. So in some configurations we fly with 2 flight engineers, and these are our places to have a look in the direction of flight.
And do you then fly hatch open, hatch closed?
On a transit flight, fly with doors closed and ramp hatch closed. And if we do open door operations like confined area work or something else, or fast rope operations, winch operations, cargo operations, we open the doors.
Obviously, there's the MG3 that can be mounted optionally on either side. Would that be operated by you then?
No, we have door gunners. This special place here in the army, and we are here the technical component, and the door gunners only are in the weapon stations, and they are responsible for the weapon.
And then behind you, I saw this controller. What is that actually?
Yeah, this is our cargo controller, but it's only for working with the cargo hook. Which puts in the center of the helicopter, but this cargo hook is not movable, so we do a DML, we call it, with a rotary swivel at the bottom. So it's connected with an electrical line to the electrical control unit here, and we have this all cables here in this, and the flight engineer is responsible for the load. So this is our normal way to transport passengers, and it's also possible with a cabin safety line, which would be installed at the bottom of the helicopter, and so they can, with your personal safety line, they can put it in. Anchor points are for our cargo tie down, so we have a lot of places to put our double studs in there. But it's also possible to install here a medevac rack, and at the back part of the helicopters also we have 2 medevac racks, full equipped, and then we have a doctor.
So how long does it take you to set up into, like, from a passenger to a cargo to a medevac configuration?
Passenger to cargo configuration, it's very fast, but for medevac configuration it takes I think half day.
And what is your role then? I mean, as the flight engineer, do you tell them when to get onto the NH90, when to get off? That's you giving the orders,
I give the orders, and I have a watch for the people in the back when they are safe. All the equipment is safe. They have some heavy weapons with them, so I must secure the heavy weapons in the middle or on spaces here in the helicopter, and so I'm responsible for the safety in the cabin, and I tell the pilot when it's safe to take off.
You work here day in, day out. Is there one thing that you would change?
Yeah, I would change the cabin height because I'm a tall guy. So it's very small, and cabin height would be perfect.
If you have any comments or feedback, put it down below. And in the meantime, I think we're going through our final flight preparations here, and then we're ready to head out. When the regiment heads out, it makes things look easy. But actually behind that, you have a very complex system. You have logistics support, you have of course the tasking that has to happen. And for all of that to work, you need coordination and communication. Now, I wonder how all of this works.
Transport Helicopter Regiment 30 is subordinated to Helicopter Command in Bückeburg, which is subordinated to the Rapid Forces Division. We get our mission tasking through the regular command lines. Inside the regiment, we have our own procedures with mission tasking, which squadron, which unit gets the mission task. We have capabilities in our regiment to operate away from our airfield here in Niederstetten. We have our first squadron, which allows us to put up an airfield anywhere where we want. They have the capabilities to operate a tower, to operate weather monitoring stations. They have our mobile canteens and a lot of basic stuff that we need. We also have the 4th and 5th squadrons here in our regiment. The 4th is responsible for supplying us with fuel. We have armored fuel trucks which can supply our helicopters out in the field, and we have the 5th squadron, which is our maintenance squadron, which can do basic maintenance of our helicopters away from static infrastructure out in the field too. So for anything else, let's say for higher logistical capabilities in out-of-area operations, we are reliant on our superior structures brigade, division, army command level logistical support. We are in that sense like any regular regiment that has basic self-sufficient capabilities but is for operational functionality reliant on upper level support.
Support is important, you know this. Logistics wins wars. As such, big thank you here to all the patrons and channel members, because you, as a supporter, are actually providing logistical support. It allows us to travel, find the accommodation, and then also just be here and film, because it also pays for Josh, which is the cameraman right there. As a thank you, supporters will have an exclusive video from this very trip on the NH90, and as always, all supporters early access to videos as well as the Discord server is available there. Thank you very much for your support, and now back to the video. Our flight today sounds simple enough, but there is a twist. First, we will accompany troops that are being deployed forward to a landing zone. Once done, we will be flown to a secret location that we don't know. We were just given an LZ name and a vague description, a small field surrounded by forests and an arching river. And there we were told to just jump off and see what happens. We agreed with the pilot to improvise, and you go with an old school signal. While all of this is simulated here, it gives you an idea of how quickly helicopters can move material or men, whether a full combat squad or a small specialist team, from one point to the next and land in really confined areas. It's easy to imagine how instead of a routine flight, this is part of a complex operation of moving troops between combat zones and then, by masking the helicopter with terrain, insert a small forward team to gather information and then pick them up again. Off we go on the first leg. Josh and I get on board 7840 with 10 soldiers to get to the first landing zone, which an advanced team has already prepared with a security detail and an ATC. While the weather was okay at this point, we were on the clock. Clouds and rain were coming in, and we still had a lot of stops to go through. Coming in on the LC, the flight engineer signaled us. 3 minutes left, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Getting close, he opens the side doors and assists the pilot in landing by checking for obstructions and counting down this distance to the ground. Setting down, the flight engineer gives the all clear to get out, and a small squad jumps out. Josh and I switch places, and as soon as we are strapped in, we are good to go. Any second now. Any second now. Yeah, we were struggling with the straps a bit, but there she goes. On our way back to the mob, the weather slowly turns. It's getting a bit choppy, and Josh asks to get off it for the next leg to recover a bit. We load up more people, who we couldn't film, and do the same tour again. At the LZ, one passenger now gets on. This is the officer we are told to follow now for the next steps. Back at the mob, the passengers get off, and despite the worsening weather, Josh is an absolute trooper and gets on again. Off we go into the part of the journey that is unknown. Remember what I said, forests, a small field surrounded by an arching creek. We only know the rough location, and if Josh and I don't identify it, we can't land. As we approach the area, the pilot asks us to look out and see if we can find a match. Finally, in one of the turns, we spot a creek set down deep in the valley. This looks like a tricky approach, but the crew made it look easy. We come in and jump out. The helicopter departs, and suddenly, silence.
So this place here called Fox Ground is actually quite nice. It's quite to get here without a helicopter. You can only reach it through a forest way. Usually just hunters and woodworkers and the farmer who owns this field. It goes up the forest, I think.
Watching you use my camera was painful.
Come again?
Watching you use my camera was painful. From my end, it looked dark, but let's be fair.
Yeah, it was probably a bit too dark because I leaned more towards the dark side.
Now, let's pretend that we have done for what we came here for. As it starts to rain, a helicopter suddenly flies over us. We don't have a radio, so a high-vis vest will have to do. We signal it, and not even a minute later, It swoops in low, and it's quite a sight to behold. Then we get our get to the chopper moment. And after struggling with the straps again, it was so easy during practice, but this one just did not fit. But after that struggle was successfully completed, we lift off, direction home, masking our departure by flying through the valley for a bit. And the weather is getting bad now. Rain, wind, but we are feeling good. We've completed our mission and are happy. As we come in to land, a huge smile erupts. In less than 2 hours we dropped off troops at forward positions, brought back troops that needed a rest, landed in a secluded spot to go through some sort of pretend clandestine operation, and got picked up again without a hitch after completion.
Thank you to all the channel supporters and of course the German Army and the crew of 7840 for making this possible, and of course Oberleutnant Roland as well for the coordination on the ground. As always, have a great day and see you in the sky.